I think that's one of the reasons for starting this podcast.
Yes,
We would like to
definitely.
share our passion for composition, especially we both of us understand the creative process is usually very lonely. You have
It definitely is,
a
but I
lot of
was.
time. You
Mhm.
have no one to talk with, and like solitude becomes a normal part of your life once you decide to be a composer.
Well, yeah, but also for the writer, also for the painter, I think that that's a constant in a lot of art that is not performative art, you know.
Yep, yep,
Um,
definitely.
but also, it's like it's really hard to explain for people that don't do this. It's also, and also like what you were saying earlier, there's a social aspect because after the piece is done, then you gotta socialize and you gotta search for musicians and you gotta rehearse and you gotta explain your piece to other people. So there are two aspects to it, really.
But I think I would like to return to the topic about the solitude. I
Okay.
think new music, the music we are usually doing, make us lonely because of the abstract nature of this kind of
Abs-
music. The
it's
abstract
well,
nature.
it's even more abstract. Yeah,
Yeah,
in many well,
because a lot
it
it.
reminds me of what you said about Fernie Howe. Like he survived. That's what he said, right? That's
Yep.
what he said to you. And we always I at least I always perceived him, and I think everyone in our circles perceived him like this giant figure that was indestructible and always established and was destined for greatness. And that was not the case. The case was that he was more or less one of us and he could endure all the implications that meant being a new music composer because it's very different being a tonal composer or a movie composer because that's already tried and proved music. What we're trying to do is very innovative. It's kind of like breaking barriers and breaking limits, trying to create sound worlds like that literally haven't been heard before.
Yes.
Because if I create a tonal music, a tonal composition, well, okay, but people can relate easier. It's more accessible, and there's more chances for performance, especially in the U.S. that doesn't have a tradition of being avant-garde. It's more conservative, and Puerto Rico, where I'm at right now, and the conservatory here trains composers to be pretty much tonal composers, extensions of Mahler. Um, you know, like they don't teach Lahenman here. They don't know who Lahenman is, for example. Just take one name. I remember that during my last year in the music BA in Puerto Rico, I was doing a work about the spectralists and Tristan Mural. And that was in the 70s, man. 70s, 80s. So it was 50 years ago. So and most people didn't know about them. Well, only me, basically. So it's kind of in that way, yeah, it's a sacrifice that one has to be conscious that we are going to make, and one that doesn't guarantee that we're gonna be successful, that doesn't guarantee that our music is gonna get played, that doesn't guarantee anything. We have to be. It's like having faith. It's almost like having a religion. Is in a way.
And and nobody want to talk about our music
No, no.
unless
Unless we
you
are famous, unless we become famous. I
and you
That's
know
the case
what?
with Fernie Howe because I bet to you that people that play Fernie Howe, most of them don't care that much about the music, care more about the name.
And a lot of times, I don't know you, but I have had a lot of experiences that I ask for honest opinion from, let's say, a friend from conservatory, and then actually they ended up not listening or reading
Anything.
anything. I
Yeah.
I don't blame them, because as a musician, I understand all of us all of us have our own priorities. Maybe we need to practice, we need to do stuff, and then at the same time we have to take care of our family. It's very hard, but at the same time it's a lonely process. Because
It's
I'm
discouraging. It's discouraging because um, it wouldn't be the same way with a tonal composer or post-tonal, post-romantic composer. Let's say a Juilliard composer. Let's put it that way.
if you, for example, if you were a songwriter,
Yeah,
maybe you just write some kind of fake like a lead sheet, and then you have some of the lyrics, and then
something
you,
like this.
yeah, and then find it pretty easy to create a demo, and then you can show it to the girl next door, and
Oh,
then
what? Sorry to interrupt you. This is purely technical. Do I sound like now in both of your, uh, not only on the left? Do I sound on both
yeah,
speakers?
it
Okay,
sounds
cool.
normal to me.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm learning. I'm learning. We are
Yeah,
learning.
and and you can show it to your non-musician friend, even if you are a songwriter, because if you're a songwriter, your songs can only be popular if it is written for the general public. You want it
You
to
have to
be
always be
truly
thinking about the
accessible.
audience. Yeah,
But
yeah.
we as new music composer or avant-garde music composer, we have a very specific aesthetics that we want to express, and a lot of times these kind of ideas are not well tested,
No,
when we
the,
have to
it's,
experiment it, and we
that's
have to
why Buffalo was such a special place, and I'm just well, I'm kind of like rediscovering or reconsidering, reloving it, whatever you wanna call it, like from my memory. Like it was a special place where a lot of talented people were came together to try and express something that hasn't been said before. Express some sound worlds, soundscapes, and that's what really saddens me about that. Most of the composers are not really active. It's like so much. There's so much talent that gets wasted, and then I see these composers that, oh my god, that they get played, they get their CDs out there, their albums, whatever, but their music is so dumb, and some of them want to try and be avant-garde, and they are like on 12 tone composition, or expressionism or pointillism or shit like that, that or is already has already been tried and proved. And okay, why are you writing this, really? Like, it's not for searching. Our search is kind of a is that's what I say, that our search is parallel to that of a spiritual person. We're searching for something unique. We're searching for a language that hasn't been spoken yet, if you know what I mean.
and and it's very hard to explain.
Because I can play jazz, but nobody has anything to say in jazz. Haven't been innovative since the 1970s, and that's like 50 years ago, 70 years ago. The last thing that was innovative in jazz was fucking jazz fusion. and that was a mixture between jazz and rock. So, mm, yeah, and when you think about it, uh, jazz is an extension of the romantic language.
But at the end of this topic, I guess, um, every artist who wants to succeed must take some risk, and perhaps very unfortunate to admit that we try to take our risk, but we have not yet succeeded. That's a little bit unfortunate, but I think the best part of our life as a composer is perseverance. We try to write it and we try to remain faithful for our attempts as well as our language, our vocabularies. I think this is the best part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm 41 and I entered conservatory in 2002.
Oh, it
Um,
looks like there's somebody else. What are you watching?
I'm watching. I know.
No,
I don't know.
no. There
And
was somebody else that entered the room like for 1 minute or something.
oh, I hope we didn't disappoint him. But I just want to say I have been
Probably
trying
they,
this
they
for
found me scary or something. I
22 years. I've been
You've been
doing
at
it.
it.
Yeah. Hmm?
Hmm. Well, let me think about it. I've been at it since 2000. My first composition, my first written composition, because I entered university in 2003, but I entered in the biology program. Then I changed to music in 2005, but I was kind of like testing the waters. I didn't
Oh.
I my first written composition, which was written in an impressionistic language with I remember the whole tone scale. My first two compositions were not my own, let's say. Uh,
I didn't know you were a biology major.
yeah,
I was
for
very surprised.
2 years.
I thought you did something like comparative literature, something like that.
Yeah, but that I in 2005, when I was 20 years old, I changed from the natural sciences faculty to the humanities faculty or the liberal arts faculty. And there I was like, I don't know what I wanna I'm getting closer to what I wanna study, let's say. So I entered music and I entered comparative literature and
Oh.
ended a bachelor in both. But by the end of the bachelor in 29 and 2010, I had decided that I wanted to be a composer. That's the path I wanted to take. But my first composition was impressionistic, was in the whole tone scale, and I only used the one. I didn't use two. The I had two available. I could modulate very easily, and I didn't do it. But well, we all have to start somewhere, right? But then by 2009, I really got deep into it and started composing daily and looking for other ways to express myself. And then I discovered many different composers and started to develop my own language. I will say that um, with the string quartet, like is that my fifth piece? Is where I began developing my own idiosyncratic language, musical language, and then the search could really begin. But yeah, it was for me. It was very intimidating to get to Buffalo, actually, because I saw all of you people, and you already had like established your styles and all of
Oh,
that.
but very unfortunately, I kind of changed my artistic direction in the middle of my doctoral program. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know this. You went from a pitchy language, pitch based language, to more noise based language. I remember.
I don't know whether it's a good change. Um,
It was a change. Like it is part of that search that we were talking about, right?
maybe not the best timing. Somehow, some
Yeah, definitely not the best timing when you were written your dissertation to change
and
styles. Like, well, but that
I became a little bit more and more toward the noise-based material, a year, like a year or 2 years before the dissertation. I
I remember
graduated
it.
in 2015, and I went to whatever festival I forgot the year, but I went to Royal, like a festival in France, 2000
Riamon, what Riamon
Royal
or no?
Mon. I think it was in like 2012. I forgot the year. I I didn't talk much about that anymore. But that's at but but participating in that festival made me realize a little bit more about the young generation of the European composer, and then and and then I understood. Wow, I could do a lot with something that was so different. And then and yeah, maybe that's made me change, but the change was very painful because of course when you first change to another language, you don't write very well. That's the problem.
Well, but there are some things, you know. I remember my teacher back in about 2009. Electronic music, well, there are some parallels to Ligeti, and Ligeti has been a constant composer that I've listened to and take inspiration from. Uh, I mean the Ligeti, the most known Ligeti, because when he started incorporating Latin rhythms like for his piano concerto, I think that was bad. That, oh my god, he shouldn't have done that. But he that's what he felt like doing. He couldn't go on with the same language anymore, and I believe he had worn it down. But yeah, my point was that um, my electronic compositions, even though I didn't develop them further, I didn't wrote many afterwards. I didn't wrote any in Buffalo actually. Um, they really kind of made me realize what I wanted my music to sound, my instrumental music to sound. If
And,
that, in a way that was like Ligeti. I didn't try transposing it directly, but it really helped to visualize what I wanted to do. And by 2012, that now that you mention it, and 20, well, I will say that by 2010, 2011, 20 and 2012, they were very very important years for my musical language. And even though it's not the same, and I just revised a piece from that period, um, and it's kind of like, whoa, the writing wasn't very good. I've matured a lot since then, but I could see that some things still, they are here. They are still here. Yeah. Some of the rhythms, for example, they remain in my head somehow. Probably they come from childhood or whatever. Man, I don't really know.
anyway, it's almost half an hour, and perhaps we should get into the main topics we have discussed.
Oh, we
Yeah.
haven't. I have them here. Okay,
Yeah. Okay. Let's
so
go.
we
Let's
are
go
we
through
are
it one by one.
we are composers. We are composers. In case the viewership, the huge viewership we have, the huge following, high followers,
Oh, very
we are
unfortunate.
composers. We are composers of new music, which means not music that is written nowadays, but music that tries to push the boundaries, that tries to sound like create soundscapes, sound worlds that haven't been heard before. That's why you were mentioning the solitude aspect, the lonely aspect of the double lonely aspect that one might say.
If
So we are composers. We kind of graduated from Buffalo. At least I'm from Puerto Rico. My name is Juan, Virgilio, whatever. So, I don't know
and one thing to add
what
is
else.
if if you are not musician, the comparison would be the pop music you usually hear um, is like some kind of fiction set you can buy at CVS, like or the Stephen King or
Y- your
whatever
metaphors are always awesome. Yeah.
mysteries or thrillers you bought from Barnes and Nobles. Um, those books are written for for general public, and the writing process is usually tailor made to make sure that it is a page turner for most people.
Yeah.
And and the new music written by us kind of follows the tradition of classical music, but of course, it sounds very different. Just like the modern literature, the contemporary literature is very different from the Shakespeare or Charles Dickens. But somehow, the modern literature follows some of the tradition you can see in the 19th century. I would say it this way. And and if you like film music is just like whatever script or screenplay written for for the TV production.
I have another metaphor or analogy. Like you can go and consume Marvel movies, and that would be more of the composers that are training in conservatories in let's say the Puerto Rico Conservatory or for movie music perhaps, and that's okay. That's okay, but we are searching for another type of expression, more like Ingmar Bergman in a way, or Luis Buñuel, or Tarkovsky. You know those the directors, movie
Yep.
directors. Yeah. Well, we are more in that sense, like trying to search for a new language, new ways of expression that have not been tried and tested, and that's why it's kind of like really hard to get um, to make a living. First of all, to make a living out of this, well, none of our teachers make a living out of their music. If you think about it, they make a living out of teaching, but out of composing, hmm, no, not really. Even somebody like Pierre Boulez, made his living conducting, and Matthias Pincher right now, where he earns his money is conducting. His compositions is like something that we need to do, in a sense, but that we know that the payout is not gonna be there, at least for the moment, and probably never, right? Because it's language. It's a language. They are new languages. It's like inventing a language with every piece, and every time we make a piece, every time we decide to change musical languages that you were speaking earlier, it's like inventing a new language over and over and over. It's it's kind of hard, but it's okay. It was our decision, and that's what I was saying earlier. It gives us more freedom. It it's like fuck it. Well, oh, I should mind the language. Where well, it's like frack it. Uh, we're gonna do what we are gonna do anyways because we are not composing for really for being accepted, for validation. Let's put it that way. The movie composer, the tonal composer, the concert hall composer in a way, orchestra composer, etc., whatever you wanna call them. That that's writing in a tonal language, in a tried and true language, in an impressionistic language, in whatever language has been already established in the past, is already working within a framework that's been tested and that has been liked and approved by tradition, that is already part of Western canon in a way, right? So that's one of the main difference I will say that new music brings to the new music as we define it brings to the table. What will you say about that?
One thing to add is, I think when we talk about our income or our status in the society, I have to sadly admit that I have kind of accepted the fact that I'm not going to have a big career as a composer. I I I think I'm a fortunate person because um, I graduated from the school in 2015, and I usually have got like one or two performances each year,
That's
and
that that's more than most of our of the class that we were part of, I think.
and therefore I believe I'm pretty fortunate, and I believe that
Yeah, I think so. In that
I'm not
sense, yeah.
I'm not a bad composer, but it is very hard to be a truly good and accomplished composer. Just imagine. Um, Actually, I came from Hong Kong. Um, my alma mater was the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. Each year, usually, the school admits 30 music students.
Hmm.
Most of them, after graduation, don't perform or don't compose.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like in academia, in school, anything goes. It's a safe space. You got your compositions. You got the groups that are coming to your school that have, well, that have a compromise. No, that's not the word. Have a duty or so to at least make some readings, even if they are very bad ones. I have some really bad recordings of my compositions. Even those groups didn't wanna play our music. Again, if we were the only music that they would play that is new music as we define it would be by established composers like Brian Fernihau or let's say Tristan Mural or Kaya Sariajo, etc., etc. Haya Chernowin, she's famous, so her fame gives her status and give them status in a sense. But if it were only by the music, I don't think they would play it.
But but the reason but the reason for bringing this up is I'm trying to explain why this podcast is started, because maybe out of desperation or out of the curiosity to explore some of the possibilities of our languages, uh, we we are trying to start a project to write a piece for for an opportunity
For an opportunity, yeah.
Yes,
We will
and
discuss
this
that.
and
We
this
we can
project,
discuss all pieces.
yeah,
Sure.
and and therefore I contacted Juan to see if he is also
I'm Juan.
interested, and and actually he is also interested in trying that direction, trying something of this year, and therefore we okay, yeah, we shall discuss these projects together. Therefore,
And have each other's back and hold each other accountable, because
yes,
if we don't compose, we have to go to the other one and tell each other that I didn't compose, and the other one is gonna shame the other. Oh no,
no, no, no good.
you've been no yeah, no good. You've been a naughty boy. You've
Yes,
been a
and
bad composer. You
if
shouldn't have studied what you studied. Felder will be mad at you and stuff like that.
to be honest, I don't think he would be mad. I think
No, I think he actually doesn't care.
I I
Not even he cares. So we are the only one who can care about it in the end.
because because composition is a very lonely process. So we
And yeah, lonely and slow. Man, it's freaking slow.
if
You were telling me like how many hours did you take to write those 3 bars, 3 measures?
it took me like 6 hours.
Oh my god.
I
It's
have to admit that I'm a lot very good at that genre.
and that would be like 5 seconds, 10 seconds,
I
something like.
I tried to do the math. I found out that it lasts for like 9.5 seconds. Well, that's
I'm
wonderful. That's wonderful. I think I wrote faster when I was younger, but now I'm older and I
I had
maybe
so many pieces done in 2011, but now I read them and they are like very raw. They are like not finished. They
because
are like,
back then I didn't care much. I was not that concerned about various issues, but now I'm very concerned. Oh, is that playable? For example, is that easy? Or if it sounds good, or if it sounds good, or if in my language, or if it
oh,
works
how,
in my
also
language.
how it is written. I'm caring a lot about the notation itself,
Yeah.
how it looks.
A basic question is whether I should make the tempo slow or whether the tempo should be fast. Where should it look like a lot of quintuplets, or should it look simpler but at a faster tempo, for example?
Well, what I was debating with myself while revising the last piece I did, which was originally written in around that time, 2011, was what accent should I use? You know that there are many accents that we have, like the small cup or triangle,
Yeah.
the greater than with a dot, like all of those. How do they affect me psychologically, in a way, you might say,
Yep.
right?
And I guess, for example, if you for example if you are writing a quintuplet, somehow actually you can hear the same thing if you change the tempo and write them like, let's say, 16th note, or you can even make them like 8th notes when you have a super fast tempo. They for the sound itself, it may be the same, but for the performer, it is different. They
Yeah,
feel
it's
differently,
like
and
in the notation, in the writing,
you guess what?
there's a psychology in reading music, like that's what I was saying about accents. Some accents you might play like really, but something you might play like staccato, but with the same strength. But then some you might let ring a bit longer, and it's kind of the same strength put into it. Like there are so many nuances that you are thinking about when you um, when you are writing, when you are in the notation, when you are there, it's like, oh my god. And as you get older, you get more picky with all of it. All of it. Remember what you told me about the songs I showed you? About the time signatures themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought about that for so long. Like, okay, I wanted originally to put it like you had suggested, but it interfered with so much information. It made me my head hurt. So it was a conscious decision that I put the time signature over both the voice and the piano, not in between. I originally wanted them to be in between, but there was so much information there that one also has to think about the performer, but not only the performer, how it looks, the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic, and it would be very cool if Megan were here because Megan was all about that in her writing. Remember her music? I
Yeah,
remember it very
I
well.
actually, I strongly, I think, I, s- I think everybody agrees with it. Actually, there are huge variety of so-called avant-garde music, huge
Of course,
variety, and
because everyone's searching for their own language. We don't
and
have. It's not a school. It's not the Vienna school. It's
there's
not the.
no common practice here.
No.
You and the spectrum is so wide. When you talk about Megan is, I think she is pretty experimental because
She's very visual.
and
Was a very visual composer. I remember.
and she I remember she worked on the physicality of the performance,
Yeah, yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah, that was very important for
and
her.
it is not
It
about
was like a
pitches or
dance.
harmonies. It's not about like just the production of some kind of noise.
That's
She
why
tr-
she recorded. Remember that she recorded in video every performance.
yeah, be
It needed to be recorded in video because it wouldn't be the whole composition if it were only the music. Like the physicality, how the performers reacted physically, how the dance was made was part of the whole composition.
but it but his but sorry, but her writing also um also poses a lot of challenges to the performer,
Yes.
as well as herself, because this kind of language is too challenging. What if she wants to translate all of her languages into an orchestral language? For example, let's say, how can you translate this language to be accessible to orchestral members if one day she is commissioned to write an orchestral work? This is a challenge. How can you rotate what she wants if she's still writing in the same language? And then how can you write it but readable for orchestral members?
For
It is a challenge, I think. For example, let's get let's return.
her music for orchestra, do you think it will even work?
For example, let's return to our first scenario when I talk about quintuplet. If you want something to be if you want everybody to play all together, to be extremely accurate, then maybe it is better to change the tempo to make sure that the quintuplet, the sound can be performed in 8th notes or 16th notes,
Mm-hmm.
so that the orchestra can play everything all together. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Of course,
They,
but
they are
then you lose something there
because a
because
lot of
a lot of
rhythm and
momentum, tempo is momentum too. It's
because a lot of
energy.
rhythm and a
Going
lot of
forward.
writing and texture can only be achieved when everybody does it at the same time.
Yes, that's
However,
true.
if you
So you
turn
have to make a choice there.
but
There's the choice of being completely accurate, or there's the choice of having of keeping the gesture, as you might recall it from the seminar days, keeping the energy, the spirit of the gesture.
however, if you turn quintuplets into eighth notes by increasing the tempo, maybe the performers will be less engaged because visually they may find, oh, the piece is so easy.
And they are more used to it, and they will say, oh, this is kind of not that hard, or this is kind of boring.
They will be probably less attentive to to the notation, and then because of lots of eighth notes, which means you have to turn page more frequently, and there are a lot of measures ahead, they will find, oh, maybe the music is very repetitive. They may be less interested in the music.
But then again, that's I come back to the same point. That's when the recognition of the composer comes into play, and how much effort they put into learning your music, because they will put a hell of a lot of effort if it says Philip Glass on the score, or if it says, well, and Steve Reich, Steve Reich is a huge figure, but they won't put as much effort into a Steve Reich piece as they would put into a Philip Glass piece. So that affects the performance and the final outcome in the end, I think.
Well, maybe this is a topic that we should discuss in our upcoming episode about the notation, about how we approach to our
Notation.
notation, how
Yeah.
we write our music. Maybe, for example, how pencil or computer, how do we revise our pieces, and also how we turn some abstract concepts into our work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I think again Megan will be great for this, because Megan have thought about it, and it was a part an, of her language. But that's another topic. Yeah. So
Well, I'm taking a mental note that we shall invite Megan for our show.
you already invited her, and she seemed enthusiastic, but she seems enthusiastic about everything. She was a high energy person. She's a high energy person.
I
She
think if I'm like her, I will be more productive.
definitely, like, um yeah. But let me think.
Yeah,
In
we should invite her. If not a regular, but at least a guest.
Of course, of course. Well, but she has children and all that stuff, so we should ask her about that. Anyways, we about the notation. There's a psychological aspect, and the psychological aspect affects the performance, and the performance affects how people perceive the music. I remember one of my of the performances I received here in the Institute of Puerto Rican Culture, whatever. Um, the thing is that the performer, the guitar player, he couldn't like he couldn't prepare well enough for the concert, because he was organizing it. He was also a composer and had premiered there and all of this stuff, and it came out. My piece came out really bad. Like, I was, you remember the feeling, right? In Buffalo, like a lot of people. uh, wh- I remember the Jack Quartet reading, and that was very, very depressing for a lot of people. Yeah, but uh, I felt like that. But afterwards, he made up for it, and we recorded it, and it came out with more with what I had originally intended, and it sounded like it was a different piece. It was definitely a different piece, and people that heard both versions, that heard it live, were like, oh, I didn't like it that much. But then they heard it like it should have been played, because we spent a whole day working on it, recording it, like making takes, editing, all the process. And my intention that I the intention that I had originally tried to express through my writing came out better orally. So it's a thing of communicating too, but not only of communicating. You can write as best as you can, and still it will not be it is not guaranteed that your intention is what is gonna be heard. So it's kind of a complex process, you know.
Well, we shall talk about these things in depth next in our next episode.
Yeah, we've been here 55 minutes.
It's
So
it's time to wrap up.
possibly, yeah. We had the state of composition. We kind of talked a bit about that when we contrasted new music, what we thought new music was, whatever. Future plans for the podcast on the stream, well, God knows. What do you think? Notation. You mentioned notation. We could probably see some pieces from other composers, but I don't think that we should turn this into an analysis podcast. That would be uh, kind of
Maybe we
boring,
can we
maybe.
can we can talk about something about that, but we don't have to be too analytic. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but definitely we can talk about how we notate our music. To be honest, when
Mm-hmm.
our music is hard to understand,
But we can
somehow
also use other examples because, for example, I was listening to what was his name, Akira Hishikawa. He
yeah yeah
Hishikawa, and well, he
Ishimura
has
or Hishikawa.
Hishimura, Akira Hishimura, to his Mirror of Light orchestra piece, which is more like a Ons Martino concerto.
Yep, yep.
In the end, like the Turangalila Symphony from of Messiaen is actually more like a double concerto for piano and Ons Martino too. But like that piece, he needed to notate it in hand, because like a lot of this stuff there, it wouldn't work with a notation program, or with traditional notation for that matter. It's kind of like in that thin line between graphic notation, but not actually graphical. It never gets there, but and traditional notation, and that also plays into the psychology of the performer. But that will be for another time,
Yep.
another discussion.
Actually, a lot of topic. There are lots of topics out there. We
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
We can talk about how, for example, the pianists practice in practice room. They practice by playing scales and arpeggios. So,
yeah.
how a composer practices? There's the question, I guess. A lot of people have no idea what we do in our practice room. A lot of things can talk about. Yeah. So we can talk about this. Yeah.
Well, how do we practice? We practice by
Don't tell
studying.
don't tell people now. We should reserve it for our
Okay,
other episodes.
to I won't tell to our huge audience. Huge audience, you are gonna be in suspense
Yeah.
because we are not gonna reveal it just yet.
For example, how a conductor practices. Unless you are a conductor actually, or unless you are a music major actually, you can't imagine. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Actually, they conducting in front of a mirror is just one of the things they do. Yeah,
yeah. But now that you mentioned that, conductors have s- pretty some parallels to a boxer, for example. Their training is kind of similar. You can draw some metaphors, some analogies between one and the other there. Definitely. But then again, that's a topic for another time.
yeah.
We are already at the 1 hour line, so I think we should just stop it here. What do
Yep.
you say, Pang?
Yeah, I think it's a good time. But
Uh,
although I'm very unfortunate that we didn't cover everything that we have discussed via WhatsApp, but it seems to me that that's the nature of the show. The show is not
it's
going to
a,
be well organized, I guess.
it's a start anyway, and we're learning how to do this.
Maybe
So
maybe
we're
after a month we will delete this episode. Yup.
who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? Uh, probably like you said, probably we should keep it for memory's sake. See how
Yeah.
it all started, how it all began, because we can look back, like, let's say February 2025, and see like how bad we were, and if we had gotten any better or no.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's the best way to do it. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
It's time
So
to
that will be all, huge audience. Thank you for your support. We
yeah.
wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that we are receiving a lot of support from the air. Yeah.
But in a way, it's very poetic because that's the same support we get for our compositions.
Yeah. Actually, it's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
the The only person who has supported us all the time is actually ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, yeah. Uh, I'm glad that you are in my life, man. At least.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, at least we can think out loud what we cannot do elsewhere. Anyways, I'm gonna end it here. We'll see you guys next week, huge audience. Thanks for the support.
Yep.
We will love you. We will always love you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.